Hey guys, as you may or may not know, my name is Sam, and this is the Posted Times, a weekly news show for Australia and the world. If you want to see a specific story, please be certain to go over to any of the stories, click on the links, and I'll take you to that story. So, our one and only Australian news story it's not really actually a news story, it's more kind of an update on a previous story where I was talking about the politicians and respect and interacting with the public. So please click on the link down there to see that episode of the Posted Times. And it all revolves around Julia Gillard. That's of course because I was talking about the PM. And she recently had a Google Hangout. And in this Google Hangout it was an open forum for people to chat. So there were a couple of people who had already been pre-selected, and they had specific issues that they were talking about, and they had kind of different people they were representing, whether it was representing kind of just health in general, or like education in general, or if it was more specific like maybe chaplaincy in schools, or suicide programs, or gay rights, that kind of stuff. And I guess I just want to deliver my pros and cons. So I guess the main pro was the fact that there was a hangout and it was an open forum, and that's something that I really like, and I really respect the fact that Miss Gillard is giving people opportunity to voice their opinion. Because not only did these people receive the opportunity to pose a question to Miss Gillard, but there were also video responses and live Twitter kind of incoming questions. Unfortunately, pretty much that was the only pro. All the other things I thought in some way were a bit disappointing. The first thing that comes to mind when I noticed this is that the majority of the questions had very vague answers. The only ones that were answered fairly directly were the ones that aren't really political, like how does it feel to be the first Australian Prime Minister? And I understand that many of the questions were the kind of things that you couldn't address directly, such as obesity, such as suicide, because ultimately the government can put like education into it, but ultimately they can't, because it's so individualistic. It's something that you can't necessarily do. But I think there should have been more talk of possible projects that might be implemented, as opposed to just kind of vague answers. And the second thing that really annoyed me, that almost negated the pro of there even being a hangout, was Miss Gillard presented her view on gay marriage. Now, it's no secret that she is not in support of it, not because she is against gays, but rather she has different cultural beliefs on marriage. However, my personal opinion is that it's not important whether or not you think marriage is important. It's about whether or not it should be done, like whether or not they should be given the opportunity. And the thing that really annoyed me was that she said it's not about the opinion polls, it's not what everyone else thinks, it's about what you think is right. And I agree somewhat with that statement, but not in this circumstance. The reason is, I understand in terms of like the carbon tax, I personally think that it's a good idea. Admittedly, I don't have to pay the tax, so I don't really have the best perspective. But I think that it's something that she thought was right, and I personally think is right, and that she just went with it. Which was a bit risky, and people aren't really happy with her as a result. But when it comes to gay marriage, it's not about your opinion, because this is a legislation that's affecting kind of like a minority. And what also really annoys me is she, on multiple occasions, said that she wanted kind of equality, mainly like equality of education. Like she said, we all need to kind of move up, but we need to move up together. And yeah, it just kind of makes me angry the way that that worked out. But anyway, there will be a link in the description to the video, which was the live broadcast. Obviously it's not going to be live, so you can't ask questions, but you can have a look at some of the questions that were posed and the way that she responded, and you can form your own opinions from that. And we move on to world news. So right now, the world news is going to be pretty depressing, and you can tell that it's going to be very depressing because the most positive story, which is the one I'm going to start with, involves people not achieving their dreams and potential terrorist threats. I am, of course, talking about the London Olympics. The London Olympics, it's right around the corner. I think it's about a week away. And at this point in time, everything is going pretty much to shit. There are two main issues that have come about. The first one has been there is a strike in immigrations. And as a result, like they've had hours long like waits in the lines for immigration. And now with the strike, it's going to be ages. And it probably couldn't come at a worse time because everybody's trying to rush into the country, trying to get into the Olympics because they're the world stage. However, there have been more issues in the sense of security. And this is actually interesting because I actually only heard about this security issue in terms of not enough numbers, because there have been reports of the security company that was going to be organising this said we're going to have 10,000 people, and so far they've only got like 4,000 or something, even though they think they can get up to like 6,000. However, I've done some digging and I've actually found that it might not necessarily be a case of numbers, but if nothing else, there is terrible organisation in this. And there have been a couple of circumstances that have just been kind of horrendous planning. One example included guards that were supposed to be guarding cyclists. There were supposed to be, I think it was like 300, and only 30 came. And it's just pretty terrible because you can have 10,000 guards, but if they're not guarding anything, if they're just sitting around waiting to do something when they're supposed to be guarding, then that's not very good. Especially when it's the Olympics, and it's kind of like, if you're a terrorist, that's the best situation to be in, a situation where there's hundreds of people. Not only that, but it's supposed to be something that's supposed to be representative of world peace. So, and I don't know, I'm not expecting that there's going to be a terrorist thing, but it does make you be a bit on edge, especially since the fact that this is knowledge that can be obtained by like anyone with the internet. But we can only hope that nothing of that nature will happen. And on to the next bit of news, and this is the kind of news that I didn't really want to talk about, mainly because it's something that I don't really have any kind of knowledge on. So I'm sorry if I get all this wrong and you hate me for it, but we've got to talk about Syria, and it's really difficult for me because I don't get into politics or war. Those are pretty much the two main things that if anyone's talking about, I'm just like, ugh. And economics. So bear with me. I've tried to do a bit of research. I've actually learnt what vetoing is, so we can only hope that I have some idea what I'm talking about. However, the Syrian civil war has escalated. It's been going on for quite a while. It's been going on from, I believe, like March last year. So it's definitely been going on, and there have been hundreds and hundreds of people who have been killed in the civil war. However, it is definitely escalating, and it does seem like they're getting closer and closer to an end. Whether or not it's a good end is definitely something that we don't know. But essentially, a bunch of people have been killed, specifically the defense minister, and there have been hundreds of people who have been murdered and thousands are fleeing. And it seems with the defense minister being killed, it might be getting closer to a conclusion. Because essentially all it has been is there's a dictatorship and there have been people fighting the dictatorship. But the problem is it's really complex because you don't really know who is the good guy and who's the bad guy. In terms of international support, the UN has been completely paralysed because Russia and China have both vetoed bills to try and support the Syrian civil war. And ultimately it's getting to the point where there's really no winners, because if the rebels win, then I don't know about you, but I wouldn't really want to live under that government, because you don't really know if it's necessarily, if it's it could just turn out to be another dictatorship, and here we go again. The same would happen if the dictatorship took over again. There's been tons of turmoil leading up to this. So if by some crazy chance they manage to reclaim Syria, this could just start all over again. And ultimately, there's no way to see any winners, because there have been hundreds of people that have been murdered in this circumstance, and I guess we can only hope that this war ends fairly soon and results in a peaceful resolution, so people aren't continuously murdered. Finally, we've got to come to the worst part of the report. I wanted to save this to last so I didn't ruin it at the start and then just overshadow it with other news. But we're going to talk about the Dark Knight Rises. There have been tons of news that have been talked about this, but I kind of want to take it from my perspective just for a bit, just over the week. Because this is a movie that people have been anticipating for months and months and months. So I guess during the week, the only thing that really came out that was bad was midweek it got some bad reviews and people sent death threats. I'm not going to talk about that. I don't understand people giving other people death threats over the internet. It's terrible stuff. But I guess in a way it kind of illustrates how much because I couldn't even believe that it was getting bad reviews. And then news came out of this terrible shooting. For those of you who don't know, it occurred during a midnight screening of The Dark Knight Rises in a Century 16 cinema in Aurora, Colorado. So watching this movie, it was about 12:30, half an hour into the movie, when a man appeared from the exit wearing a riot helmet and a bulletproof vest and a gas mask. He entered, he had 2 gas canisters, threw them into the crowd, and the crowd were just like, whoa. And he had a rifle, he had 2 handguns, he had a shotgun, and he just like let loose on the stunned crowd. And it's pretty horrific. There's so many casualties, making it probably one of the worst shootings, recent shootings in Colorado, possibly in America. 12 of those are dead, the remaining 58 have been injured, quite a lot of them are in hospital. It's pretty sad, and the thing, what also I really don't like about this is the fact that details are continuously emerging, and they're the kind of details that you have this initial shock of the because when I first saw it, I saw it just as like a video on a news channel, and when I read it I was like, what? And then I saw it and I was like, oh my god. And what's worse is with all these details, you just keep getting shocked, and you can't, it makes it so much harder to get over how tragic this is. So some of the details, firstly, there's been a massive ripple effect as a result of this. Politicians in America have been trying to send hope and messages of we will get through this as a American family. There have also been tons of whispers about gun laws. Honestly, I hope they choose to stop go against gun laws. I think partially just because as an Australian I know of the Port Arthur massacres, which resulted in the banning of guns in Australia. And I guess I'm kind of influenced by that. The premiere in Paris has been cancelled. There are many press releases that have been cancelled. Many they're hoping to get police officers to man some of the theatres that show The Dark Knight Rises, because that's how freaked out they are by this. They think they might be copycats. there was a woman who claimed to be Jack's mum. She basically said, yes, that it's completely my son, you have to arrest him. Only just recently they've actually managed to gain entry into their apartment, into the killer's apartment. James Holmes is the name of the killer. It was completely booby-tracked. It had napalm. It had, basically they didn't want anyone to enter his apartment and live. So that, and one of the final things that I think really freaks me out and really makes me kind of have blood loss is that this guy just dressed up as the Joker, and it was just like, the Joker's the enemy of the Batman. And it's just so sickening to see him treating this like a game. I would say so many things, but I don't even want to say how much this hurts me, because I know there's no point in even saying this, because I'm sincere. Like, unless you're insane, you have to go, this is terrible. I'm not going to say my soul burns, because I don't want to insinuate that nobody else's souls burn at hearing this. And I don't want to even try and describe the rage and sadness and fear that this kind of thing brings on. And, yeah. That's all I really wanted to say. Please make sure to subscribe and to like and to share. And I'll see you next week. And hopefully there will be better news.